first. So let's catch you up at the very latest before we get into some of the results. One of the announcements that was made today in particular, not a big surprise, the Jaguars have dismissed Doug Pederson as their head coach. So Pederson, of course, with the Jaguars for several years, 15 games under 500 as the head coach there, ends up being let go. Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, starting a new search. Trent Baalke, the GM, looks like he will be back to conduct that search as well. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. Late yesterday, we found out that we have a one-and-done coach in the National Football League, Jerod Mayo, coaching the Patriots after the departure of Bill Belichick. He was fired as well. New England with one of the worst records in the NFL this season. One-and-done coaches fired over the last few years. Not only just Jerod Mayo, but also Frank Reich was fired in 2023, Lovie Smith, 2022, Nathaniel Hackett, David Culley, Urban Meyer. Generally, this does happen every so often. And the statement from Robert Kraft was also released where he says, "We have tremendous fans who expect and deserve a better product than what we have delivered in recent years. I apologize for that. I've given a lot of thought and consideration to what actions to take, expediting the process, returning to a championship, and determine this is the best move right now." One potential suitor for the Patriots head coaching position could be their former player Mike Vrabel, who is a free agent coach at the moment. Last night in the National Football League, the best game of the week, without a doubt, could have been the game between the Vikings and Lions. Turned out to pretty much look like the Lions deserve to be the number one seed and the winner of the NFC North. They're going to be the number one seed to get the bye, and the Lions had their best season ever after they culminated their win against the Vikings yesterday. Minnesota's offense really struggled throughout this game, so Dan Campbell, naturally after the 31-9 win, recognized that not only did the offense show up once again, but this time it was the defense that set the tone.
How's it going? Woo! Man, what a win. What a win. Guys, I can't say enough about our defense. Let me start there, man. AG and this defense, they really control that game for us, particularly the first half, 2.5 quarters. The guys on defense, I thought, executed exactly the way that we had worked and what we had talked about. We were able to apply a lot of pressure, and it just paid dividends. That's a good team over there. They're well coached. Kevin O'Connell does a great job. Ton of weapons, and we were able to contain them and keep them at bay until our offense was able to, to find our rhythm. So just total team effort. Started with our defense and took the whole unit. But man, what a great job. Back-to-back division winners in the NFC North. Got the 1 seed, 15 wins. I just couldn't be more proud of those guys. And I just told them that to me, this has been in the making for a while. It takes a special group of guys, and I think you kind of had to go through what we've been through over the last 4 years, the core of this unit, and then anybody that comes in, they fall in line because that's what we're built around is our core, and they really delivered for us today. Our playmakers made plays when we needed it.
We'll see the Lions in 2 weeks, and Kevin O'Connell, the coach of the Vikings, said they'll also see the Lions in 2 weeks. We will see. Giants making the announcement this morning. Brian Daboll, head coach, coming back for another season, and also Joe Schoen coming back as well. The Giants lost to the Eagles. They're going to have a top 5 pick in the upcoming NFL draft, so the Giants finish off their very difficult season with a loss. The Buccaneers needed every point that they could muster against the New Orleans Saints. Saints led this one for a long period of time as the Bucs were 14.5-point favorites, and now the Bucs do advance. They win the division. They'll take on the Washington Commanders next week. They've been running the ball extremely well. Bucky Irving has been a star for them, along with Baker Mayfield, and Baker knows how valuable Irving has been to their backfield.
Mike, for sure was happy that Bucky Irving got that touchdown because he wants to win more than anything else. He puts the team above his own personal accolades. Yeah. How much more does that make you want to go out there and get him that 8-yard pass that you did at the end there? Because he's always put the team first.
He always has, and that's why you love him. That's why we appreciate having him. We're lucky to have him, and he's underappreciated throughout the media, the league, and he's one of one, and he deserves that. So obviously, you saw the stadium erupt, the whole sideline erupt. You can tell how much people care about him and what that means for everybody around him.
What were your thoughts when Bucky scored in that play rather than dropping down at the 5 or 6 yard line?
we won the game, great, but now I'm going to be the guy that didn't get the 1,000 yards. So now he's going to have to play 11 more years after that if we weren't going to get him that. So no, but it was obviously most important thing's winning. All jokes aside, most important thing's winning. But you have a little second on the sideline there to realize that you're that close to it. And God is great. Got us the ball back. Defense got to stop, and so we were able to get one more play to him.
And the Bucs will be 3-point favorites this coming week against Washington. Meanwhile, wildest game of the day between Atlanta and Carolina. For a moment, it looked like the Falcons could end up getting that division title, but they did fall in overtime to a very good Carolina Panthers offense. 44 points. Panthers played much better down the stretch, including Bryce Young. Falcons were 7.5-point favorites, and they crawled to the finish line, although Michael Penix played very well. A lot of discussion what could go on in Atlanta. We'll keep an eye on that as well today. The Denver Broncos rolled out their starters. The Chiefs did not, and Denver ends up winning this one 38-0. The Broncos make the playoffs. The Chiefs didn't play anyone in the game. Washington Commanders, 6.5-point favorites at the end. Earlier in the week, the line was 3, 4.5, depending on where you got it. Maybe you got a push or even a win. They go to Dallas and cap off their season. So, again, they'll play Tampa this week. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers are going to take on the Eagles next week. We'll see if Christian Watson is going to play in this game. He was carted off with a non-contact injury, 24-22. The Bears beat the Packers' final game of the season. Also, Justin Herbert came from behind to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Score is closer than it indicated, 34-20 the final. But the Chargers have been challenged in almost every game this season. Justin Herbert, their quarterback, said that challenge could lead to good things in the playoffs.
And just kind of everything you guys have, all the games you've won this year, the ups and downs you guys have been through, how do you think this all kind of has prepared you guys to play postseason football this year?
Yeah, I think adversity is a great teacher, and we've seen our fair share of it. And having gone through, the tight games, the close ones, the tough losses, we're better because of it. We've watched the film, and we've done everything we can to correct those mistakes. We're honest with ourselves when we watch the film the following day, and we say, this is what we got to do better, and this is what we've done well. And at the same time, as long as we're able to be honest with ourselves and to continue to progress, move on, and develop, we're going in the right direction.
All right, so the Chargers pick up the win, and the Miami Dolphins fall in their final game of the season to Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Boy, if Rodgers just played against the Dolphins all season, he would have been the MVP, right? 4 more touchdown passes against Miami. 32-20 the final. Dolphins announced their head coach and GM will return next season. Also, the Colts will bring back their head coach and GM, as was announced by Irsay yesterday. Final 26-23. Colts ended up winning that game. The Tennessee Titans take out the Houston Texans, take out the Tennessee Titans. Got it right. 23-14. Tennessee has the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Okay. Lamar Jackson on Saturday crushed the Browns 35-10. We'll see if he or Josh Allen wins the MVP. And the Steelers now have lost 4 straight games as they head into the playoffs. The Bengals win 19-17. Okay, let's go over to the D3 championship in college football. We don't want to ignore them. North Central beats Mountain Union 41-25 the final. Also, former Boise State quarterback Malachi Nelson is going to play for UTEP next season. Jaden Rashada, the quarterback who has transferred from Florida to Georgia, will transfer again as he enters the portal. And Zachariah Branch and Zion Branch transfer to Georgia from USC. Also, Jonathan Kuminga of the Golden State Warriors involved in some trade discussion recently, potentially for Jimmy Butler. Forget all that. He sprained his ankle. He's going to be out 3 weeks. No word on Butler's return to Miami, by the way. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to NewsWire. We'll hit back Adam Kaplan here in just a few minutes. Let's check in with Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report as we start off our new week of discussion on sports wagering going on across the country. Pat, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Let's begin and start off in Maryland. And you can read about this story, by the way, at LSR, legalsportsreport.com. Some potential online casino progress here. In fact, one of the state legislatures, from what I'm reading here, said this could happen without the sky falling. So it must seem like there's some opposition coming in a big way for this to happen.
Yeah. So first of all, right now we're heating up in legislative season. A lot of them are taken off on Wednesday to start. So we're going to be talking a lot about legislation here in the coming weeks, Craig. Just kind of sports betting in states that we haven't seen legalized yet, online casino in a lot of states, sports betting taxes, what have you. First thing to note on online casino is there's only a few markets in the country that have it, including Michigan, where I am. And it's been a lot slower to pick up legalization-wise than the industry might have hoped. And I don't think that's really going to change, especially with the new headwinds against online gambling. We've talked about it here at the U.S. Senate hearing, the U.S. federal bills targeting online gambling, the likes, and just general public feeling right now is kind of anti-gambling. And so that's going to affect a lot of these state level discussions. But in Maryland, we've got a former representative who introduced a bill last year for online casino and actually got it through the Maryland House, Delegate Vanessa Atterbury. She's introducing another bill. It will begin in her Ways and Means Committee that she chairs, and held a very lengthy hearing last year to discuss it. And yeah, she said, we can do this. We need to do this. There's illegal gambling happening. But yeah, to your point, she said we can do it without the sky falling. It's important that we do this. She talks about how she's not a gambler, but she'll go to casinos for events and stuff to kind of quell the cannibalization discussions that we also heard in Maryland last year. Now, the problem here is the Senate. In Maryland, Senator Ron Watson introduced a pretty similar bill to Atterbury last year. But the Senate is less friendly to gaming, it appears, for right now. It did not even take up Atterbury's bill. And Watson, went to the National Council of Legislators from gaming states last year, talked about kind of the lessons learned. He said there's a lot of campaigning that needs to be done internally in the Senate, kind of to educate what this means and why it's important. We'll see if anything changes on the Senate floor this year. We'll see if the House can kind of redo last year. It was a pretty overwhelming vote for in the House. So we'll see if that wave kind of continues over. But again, a lot of headwinds against online gambling. So I'm be kind of surprised if this does pass. But Maryland is certainly one of the states to watch in terms of states that could get it done this year.
All right. So now let's follow up and ask the same question about Illinois. When we've been talking about them, by the way, through the end of the year into this year too. What are their chances of getting this done?
This one is also interesting because now you've got Governor J.B. Pritzker saying, this is something we should consider. And it comes as he's probably working on his budget that needs to be proposed by February. And they're going to have something like a $3 billion budget shortfall. So they need revenue. And, a representative who has introduced bills in the past says this is a great way to raise revenue. The senator who was speaking of it has introduced it both of the previous two sessions. They run 2 years length, so 2021 and 2023, and I assume she will again this year. But with Pritzker saying, this is something we should consider, you have to think that carries some weight in Illinois. We know Pritzker is a fairly friendly person to gambling. They've opened up sports betting since he took office. They've added some new casinos to the state. It's not all friendly. They did raise the taxes to a tiered level based on your revenue for sports books last year. So it's not all friendly, but J.B. Pritzker is very friendly to the industry. So it'll be interesting to see if he does in fact include this in the budget, or maybe they go about it the other way with just straight legislation. Again, something interesting to watch. Again, there are plenty of headwinds against this. Lots of, the public is kind of wary about the expansion into gambling, having sports books already. That you might see some more responsible gambling action in Illinois as well, just kind of to say, hey, we're going to pay attention to this as well as expand it a little bit more. But the expansion is important to keep it regulated and in the public eye.
All right, so let's close it out with the possibility of Alabama getting going with some sports betting here. And, I know that there's going to be a lot of opposition on this one, as there has been for years, Pat. I guess the workaround here is they're trying to move, it looks like, through the Senate as opposed to the House. Maybe I'm not saying that this is circumventing anything. It's just maybe a different way of proposition to get this done.
Alabama is such an interesting state, and it's one that I've actually come to kind of enjoy watching because it is so interesting. Over the past couple of years, it is one of 5 states without a state lottery. So you start there, and that's one of the things that they focus on is any of the gambling bills really starts there by creating an Alabama lottery. From there, it's kind of expanding. They figure basically, let's go ahead and go big and have casinos and online sports betting and all the like by including that in the lottery bill. Now, a couple of years ago, there was a Senate bill that did all of that. It passed the Senate. It went to the House and didn't pass. So the next time around, the Senate goes, okay, we're going to give it to the House. The House pretty much bases what they put together in a package and send it to the Senate. The Senate said no. And in a conference committee, they stripped most of the casino language. They stripped online sports betting. The House still passed it. The Senate didn't pass it. And so that's where we're at this year. We've got a House minority leader saying, okay, we've come really close. We've done this a couple of times. It seems like we agree to wanting to do this sort of stuff. So, you know what? We did it last year. You guys could go ahead and try to do it again. At the same time, you've got a Senate leader saying, we're going to continue to approach this conservative, more conservative than the House. So, it kind of seems like a stalemate. I wouldn't be surprised at some point if they just come to an agreement, go ahead and pass a lottery, and then from there, in the future sessions, kind of expand it from there, including online sports betting, especially if you see Georgia and Mississippi go online, then you're going to see some more pressure in Alabama, I would think. I mean, Craig, there's a lot of legislation coming on board. As I've mentioned, we're going to be talking about a lot of these in the coming weeks. I mean, we've got more online casino coming. We've got Minnesota heating up. We got, and you can't forget, Missouri is going to be launching here in a couple of months. That I should have an update for you soon.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening, Craig.
All right. We'll keep an eye on it, Pat. And as always, check out all of your articles over at LegalSportsReport.com. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks as always, Craig.